All right, welcome back, everybody. We're here for another session of Power Baseball League. And last time we touched in on email templates and we got an email template set up. You may recall we ran into some hiccups, but we were able to get the basics in place and start to communicate with our folks. And now we want to take that a step further and touch on marketing lists, and not only marketing lists, but also quick campaigns, which are two out-of-the-box key features that you get in some of the D365 apps that are really functional in terms of communicating with people, both dynamically and static lists. And so we're going to kind of give you a high-level overview of those things. But as we started to put this together and we started talking through what we were going to cover, we actually ran into a bit of a hiccup around this as well, because when we first initially set up the environment, we didn't enable D365 apps. And so now here we are ready to go, and we can't actually enable that app. Right, so that was a bit of a surprise to us as we started to get ready for this a little while ago, and we kind of had to hem and haw around how we were going to tackle that. So we're going to actually operate in a different environment today, but we wanted to touch on the fact that you want to give some thought, right, Kylie? You were saying as we were about to kick off.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. Like we said, in our environment, you can add additional apps to your environment. So I'm going to show you the new environment we created, and you'll see I can go to my D365 apps, and you have the ability to install additional apps. Unfortunately, because I had not enabled this initially, it wouldn't let me add in the sales app that we needed. And so that's why we will be working in this new app. But I'll put some links down in the description that you can check out and for more information on that, but just wanted to show you where that is. So I think whenever you're creating an environment, it'll be important for you to check off that little box, and I can quickly show you where that is actually. It's important to check off that box to say that you might want to add Dynamics 365 apps in the future, just so that kind of all the stuff that you need is there, right? So when you're creating a new app, you do want to say you want to create a database for this environment. And then on this next page, there's a box here that says Enable Dynamics 365 apps. And you can choose none to begin with, or you can select the apps that you want to start with. So let's hop over into this new sales app that we created. You'll see we just have our sample data here so that we can show you a few of these features. So first, let's talk about quick campaigns. So a quick campaign is just like what it sounds like. You want to schedule something quickly for a group of records. So I could do this with an advance find, or we're just going to select a couple records here, and we can click on New Quick Campaign for the selected records, or we could choose all records. If I was using a view, I could look for everything in that view. We'll just use our selected records. And then it's going to walk me through a wizard to set up that campaign. So we're going to give it a name. And then I can choose what activity I want this to be. So if it's an email, I can send that out as part of this quick campaign. Or I could do a phone call, which, for example, I could say, create a new phone call assigned to the owner of these records, telling them to reach out or something like that. But generally, I think email makes the most sense. I'm going to have it from the owner, for example, and we're going to go ahead and send those email activities. You see, if we had created a phone call or a task, it might make sense to assign that to someone else or put it in a queue, but we're not going to worry about that today. And then this will take us kind of full circle to the email templates we looked at yesterday, last week, whenever that was. So I actually would have the ability to select a template in my system. We'll just select one of these guys, and I can use that for my quick campaign. Or I could go ahead and, type in my own subject or make my changes here as needed. And so as soon as I create this quick campaign, then all of those email records will be created and will be sent out to these contacts, and I'll be able to see them on that, account, I'll be able to see them on that account record that email was sent as part of their activity, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you had unchecked that box, the email records would still get created, but they would sit waiting for somebody to go and action them, right? And open them up and say send. And there's some use cases for that where maybe you want to bring somebody, you set them up and you get them ready to go, or you fire off this queue, but you want to wait, not queue, sorry, you want to fire off the quick campaign and you want to wait until a certain time to go in and send that email for whatever reason. In the scenario we were going to run with in our Power Baseball League scenario was that we were going to kick off a email campaign to everyone who had registered for the year. So kind of the same as what we talked about last week, that email template. But this time it was just going to be everybody who's already registered. Let's go ahead and send them a quick note. And that would be useful in our scenario, saying, okay, hey, we have a cancellation. The fields aren't ready for use this week. We have to get a quick message out to everybody. You could use a quick campaign saying, don't attend your practice time this week because the fields are flooded and underwater. We can't use it. You can send that notice out to everybody using a quick campaign. So that's one option. The other activity option I've seen used in real life when an event happens. So we want to grab everybody who came to the event and checked in. We want to do a quick campaign and we want to do a follow-up phone call. So we've used a quick campaign to generate a list of phone calls for all of those, because there's multiple registrants. We had everybody who showed up selected and we run a quick campaign, and now there's a phone call created for the owner and they know to go in there sometime in the next day or two and do a quick follow-up call, and there could be a script embedded right in that activity record and everything that they can follow. So a couple of quick simple examples of how you might use that functionality.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great call out. Now, if I wanted to, maybe I'm going to market to these same people multiple times, right? Let's select a couple people. I can go ahead and add them to a marketing list. See, I have this lovely button right here, and I do not have a marketing list created yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new one. Am I doing it wrong?
I think it's just going to take you to that create one. Yeah.
So I can create a new test marketing list. And in this place, you'll see we have the ability to create a static or a dynamic list. So if I had just added those 3 records to a static list, then it's always going to be those 3 records who would get notified. But I also have the ability to create a dynamic list, which I could use basically advanced find criteria to determine the records in this set. So that's constantly being evaluated before something is sent to this marketing list or something like that, so that I'm always getting the most up-to-date people. So let's go ahead and create a dynamic instead of the static that we started looking at. And I'm going to have the ability to set up my criteria. So let's go.
I think we have to, up at the top, we can now manage members, and we can create the members. This is a really cool function around creating that criteria. And if you're familiar with the older versions or the classic view, it looks a little different, but it functions effectively the same way here, right? So I don't know what criteria we want to add. Maybe everybody who's, I'm going to follow your lead, everybody who's active, for example. And for the Power Baseball League example we were going to use was everybody who had submitted a registration. Or, for example, we could also do everybody who has not submitted a registration ever. So that's a neat clause that you might want to look into, is the ability to say, grab everybody who doesn't have such and such a record. There are some caveats there and some kind of gotchas you got to think about, but that's a neat function that's relatively new. If you're used to the classic, some of the older versions, you couldn't do that, does not contain or does not have, but now you can, which is really handy.
Yeah, that's great call out. And so I just did a really easy one, everyone who lived in this one city, and then we would be able to respond, send out campaigns or quick campaigns to this group of members if we wanted to. And we have also the ability to save a copy of this. So I could copy it to a static list of everyone who lived in this city in 2021, for example. Lots of changes I can make there. And also keep in mind that The difference between campaigns and quick campaigns is with a campaign, it potentially has more than one activity associated with it, right? You could have an email sent, and then you might want to do something else later. And there's also other data that you can store at that campaign level. So lots of things that you can kind of get more complex in there if you want to, even just from the regular sales license, right? Before you upgrade to going the full-blown marketing. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on there, Malcolm, or did we cover everything we wanted to show?
Yeah, I think it was really just about giving a high level example. And so that whole dynamic feature, what's really cool is if we went and added a new contact right now that lived in Redmond, they're going to show up on that list automatically. And so if you were to come back here and say, okay, show me the members, manage members, you'd have that new person. And so that will actually call that query when that list is being actioned. So if we created a quick campaign and we use the marketing list, or we use the marketing list to send something, it's going to call it at the time that you're sending. So whatever's accurate as of that moment is what's going to be there. If we triggered it and send something out and then somebody got added to that a minute later, that's it. And so that's where you really start to see some cool functionality in the more robust Dynamic 365 marketing, where you can do user customer journeys, and those can actually, as people are added, you can actually trigger journeys. I mean, we're not talking about that here, but that's a function that is really, really powerful that kind of takes this up a notch from what you have today. But as you see here, Kylie went and added one, and there we go. We have got 4 on the list instead of 3 now. So it's pretty responsive and pretty real time.
Cool.
Yeah, but that's essentially it. We just wanted to give folks a kind of a high level overview of what your capabilities are with Dynamic. There's all kinds of resources out there that you can lean on and learn about the different features and functions, and they continue to roll new features into those tools, so they're getting a little more robust. Again, like we talked about last week, probably not going to push it too far because they want you to move to the marketing, which is a pretty phenomenal app in and of itself. So there's some limitations to what you can do, but there's definitely a lot of good functionality available at your fingertips right in the basic app.
Yeah, so I think that's all that we have for you today, and I think we'll have more exciting content coming next week. So thank you guys all for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.